Hey guys, we've got two 7th gen X1 Carbon here with us today. 2019 model, so latest generation. The 4K version has a carbon fiber finish, you can probably see, and the standard FHD version has a usual finish that you'll be used to in terms of how it performs, how it lasts. This specific carbon fiber weave, it's interesting. Some reviews online say it's easier to leave marks. I mean, certainly you can see a light scratch already emerging, but the flip side of the coin is, of course, if the scratch you leave is quite similar to the shape of the pattern, then actually you can't really see it easily. So maybe it'll last better, maybe not. I think in time we'll find out. I think okay, one of the key change from actually we'll bring our 6th gen just to confuse you. Right, okay, so 6th gen, 7th gen. So you'll notice the speakers facing up and the power button moved to the side on the 7th gen. Anything else, trackpad slightly changed, keypad travel gently, sort of slightly changed, but not much difference. 6th gen on top. You'll notice on the 6th gen you still have the micro SD card slot, I think. On the 7th gen, I think it's no longer there as far as I can see. So just put it away for now. But on both the 7th gen, the speakers are really a lot better than the last gen. So we've actually got two models here. We think it's going to be used by quite different group of people. I think this specific one is for the people who really value the image quality. The Full HD is probably going to be used by most of the buyers, and it's matte. So I think what we'll do is, I'm not sure if that's actually the same wallpaper. Try to put it at the same angle just to make sure the maximum brightness, we'll leave it to native color. Okay, what you can see is immediately just how much sharper the 4K version seems to be, but at the same time, just it's a little bit more reflective. So if you're working outdoors, yes, it's brighter, but it's something to think about. Again, the privacy shutter is there, the IR, etc. So it's there. Okay, price-wise, I think the 7th gen, I think it's quite an interesting point at the moment. We've not yet got the 10th gen CPU, so it's a chassis refresh, but the chipset is a small refresh of the previous one. So it's quite interesting to see if at the end of the year, I think Lenovo has already said that they'll put the 10th gen into this laptop. So it's going to be quite interesting, better, and displays much better. So traditionally, the people who buy XPS probably would think a lot more about this option. And I think unlike companies like Apple, you get so many optionality with the ThinkPad, like display, SSD, and everything else from matte to glossy, etc. So you do have a lot more options, whether you put 4G in at the beginning or not. Obviously, you have to put the 4G in if you're on 4G. It's just so much more options, and I think from a battery perspective, though, you could end up with two quite different machines in terms of how they actually perform. So the Full HD would be a lot better for if you travel a lot, and the 4K one is really good if you intend to edit photo or light video editing on the move. And I think for the Ultrabooks, we don't really expect, at least most of the customers don't really expect the graphic card. I mean, it would be interesting to have something like the MX250, but I think most of the customers would probably have a secondary desktop or something else they can do their work on. One thing to keep in mind is whether you actually really want the i7. So between i5 and i7, well, they're both i7, but you'll also have an i5 model lower down the line. I mean, some people will probably want to, because RAM is not upgradable, one of the quite sensible option would be just get the i5 HD, but load up with 16 gig of RAM, and from day one you can get up and running. So that's something to think about. RAM is not upgradable, but SSD is quite easily accessible. Serious on the ThinkPads, you have AMD Ryzen options. For this generation, we don't have Ryzen yet, so it will be interesting to see next year if Lenovo makes some AMD version of this. Maybe not, maybe. But I think certainly we'll see the 10th gen Intel chips in these first. I'll just give you another look, just so we're not boring you. So it's probably easier to compare against the 6th gen, just so it's better comparison. So just to 6th gen on the bottom, of course, just so we can know the card slot. So yeah, so the ports, headphone jack on the 6th gen is on the other side. On the full mic at the front on the 7th gen. So it'd be interesting to see if over time the dusts get into these small mics, but I think it's we'll see over time. Power button, whether you like it or not, it seems to be on the side. Personally, I prefer it on the top, but maybe you have to move the speakers, and it's contradictory, but I much rather prefer the speaker over the power button, in the sense that power button you use probably once or twice a day, whereas the speaker is always there. Anyway, hope that's helpful. Any questions, just give us a shout. We'll hope to do more content with similar laptops. But yeah, hope that helps, and have a good day. Take care, bye.